Today I am here with our lovely guest, Katelyn Curran from the Healing Echoes podcast, and we are going to share Katelyn's triumphant story and really focus on the points in their journey that made a huge difference.
Hey,
How you doing today?
I'm good. Excited for this conversation.
Well, it's you and me. You never really know where this is gonna go. Like, what has been the biggest obstacle or even diagnosis that you've overcome or at least come to a major point of healing on in your own journey?
Oh goodness. I don't know, I have to think about that one. You started out with what I have to actually think about. Probably, especially leaning towards like diagnosis, probably CPTSD. I didn't really realize how much of my life my trauma affected, or how many things that I was doing was like because of a trigger. I just thought that was how everybody lived. So yeah.
And it's cool that you say that because so many people don't realize like how much while we're still living in it, in the eye of the hurricane, so to speak, you don't
Mhm.
even know. You don't
Yeah.
know anything different until you start to heal the pattern and you can look back on it and go, holy fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still have those holy fuck moments. Especially like with social media and setting my algorithm on things. Like my TikTok feed now is just like people that have suffered the same kind of traumas as me. And so yeah. So like seeing how many things are actually like CPTSD symptoms. And I'm like, oh, wow. I didn't realize I didn't realize that. But it's always been like that for me. I mean, when I was a child, I had really bad anxiety. I do have anxiety. I was diagnosed with it. But I thought the way that I think and the things that I worried about was how everybody's brain functioned. I thought that that was the norm until I started telling people, and then they were like, "No, that's not normal." Yeah.
Right? And that's the hardest part because then not only do you have to start to come to terms with, well, this is how I've acted in the world for this long.
Mhm.
There's that almost like guilt and shame factor of, wait, I'm not normal. Oh
Mhm.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oh, I been making people uncomfortable for this many decades just acting like this? And then you can spiral just from the realization of this is how you are in the world
Hmm.
before you've done the exponential healing work.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially being a neurodivergent and like getting those diagnoses and realizing that's why I was seen as like weird or different. It was because I'm autistic.
Right?
And the
And
whole time I thought I was just like the weird girl. Yeah.
right? And I'm glad we're getting to, I would say, a more understanding world where we
Mhm.
get like everybody's brain is different.
Yeah.
You function how you function, leave other people alone.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad, especially in the mental health sphere, that
Hmm.
we are getting there of, okay, it's not a one size fits all. Or when
Yeah.
people work with me and they've had no success in traditional counseling and they're looking to really just focus on the release and the reprocessing so that they can move forward from everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one size fits all is, I think, was a doom to a lot of us. So I'm glad we're kind of starting to release that.
What were the tools or practices that made the biggest difference in your life on the journey back to wellness?
Mm. Um, Well, one I would say was regular talk therapy for me. Especially because I didn't start my wellness journey until I was an adult. Until my first official therapist, I had not like verbally told anyone what had been done to me. So just being able to say it out loud was extremely healing. Um, but honestly, I think the second one would be meditation. Um, for me, just being able to sit with myself, it really allows me to like dive deep into what I'm feeling and why. It's still something I try to do on a daily basis. It helps me recenter.
See, and I love that you said that because I focus on different meditative practices even
Hmm.
before like the intense, like truly healing ones
Hmm.
with my clients so much because when you can learn to sit in the own uncomfortable emotions inside your body, nothing can really stop you.
Yeah,
Like, hey, I'm being a cow because I'm really agitated right now.
yeah.
Okay, like I'm sitting myself in my own timeout till I can figure
Mhm.
out why and how to move forward while not being a cow.
Yeah, that was huge for me because I hate my negative emotions. And I'm sure that stems from like not really being allowed to feel them or show them as a child. But as soon as I'm like in a mood or whatever it might be, I was immediately trying to convince myself to get out of it. And meditation allows me to kind of sit in it and figure out what it is. Or just instead of trying to always constantly be processing and getting rid of things, just sitting with it and allowing it to be.
It exactly the practice of becoming a human being instead
Yeah.
of a human doing.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite phrases right now.
Right? Well, and that's even why in my late teens, like early 20s,
Mhm.
I took a detour and I dove deep into like Buddhist meditation practices
Mm,
because I looked at all the religions, and even though I grew up with the indigenous side of my spirituality,
mhm.
I was no, this is the most peaceful people. Let me practice their ways for a decade and see if
Yeah,
I can get there. And it helped immensely. It
yeah,
was no, this whitewashed version of meditation where you clear your mind of any thought that doesn't actually exist.
no, it doesn't.
It is just learning to sit with whatever's going on in your mind, your body,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah. I mean, especially for people like me, it's almost impossible to clear your mind completely, anyways.
Well, exactly. Like
It's
us.
like there's always going, even if the only thought that you have is I must have no thoughts, you're still technically thinking. So there is no emptiness.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
and especially with people with neurodiversity. Like neurodiversity and trauma, those are two classifications of minds
yeah,
that are never silent.
yeah. It's never gonna stop.
Like I'm sure you wake up some nights and you know you just thought an entire marathon.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. I love that you pointed that out though, because that whitewashed idea of like emptying your mind is actually what held me back from looking into meditation for so long. Because my mother, as we know, is like part of my abuse. She thought that meditation or any of those practices, which to her in that time frame, early 2000s, was like new age. She thought that it emptied your mind, and she thought if your mind was empty it would allow bad things in, right? So that kind of just being told those things kept me away from it even as a young adult until I was finally like, let me do my own research because this doesn't sound right.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean, even in my last 10 years in the field, so many
yeah,
people come to me and they say, well, I can't meditate. Like, what do you mean you can't sit with your own damn thoughts?
yeah.
And they go, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's just
What it
sitting and
is.
observing your own thoughts, but not hyperfixating on them. Like,
Mhm.
and that's where I go into giving someone that you're sitting in a river, and every time you have a thought, put it in the river, watch it float away.
Yeah,
And it's one of probably the first 5 meditations I ever learned, like going through school.
yeah.
But people, when they realize it's just honoring what's going
Yeah.
on in your body, and they begin to look at it that way, they're
Mhm.
like, oh, I've been meditating for years. And I'm like, of
Yeah,
course you have. You if you have a mind, and I know a lot of people don't have thoughts, but if you have thoughts,
yeah.
I'm sure you've meditated if you've ever taken a moment to just think out
Yeah.
something that's going on in your mind.
It's like the first person to whitewash it was autistic, and they took the definition a little too literally. Because
Oh,
I've done that. My husband actually pointed it out the other day because a new practice I've been trying with my therapist is to envision myself. And I can't. I have a very like photographic mind. I can picture anyone anytime like I'm painting a picture, but if I try to see myself, I can't. And he's like, that's not what they mean. That like you don't have to literally see yourself, Katelyn. And I'm like, oh, that's not what they meant. This whole time I thought I was doing it wrong because I thought I was supposed to be able to see myself like I was looking at someone else. He's like, no, that's not what they mean. I'm like, oh, well, we're just going to chalk it up to an autistic moment. I took them very literally. On to the next.
and you can't
Yeah,
hear it, but I'm currently catching my breath from laughing because, yep, yep, that happens, and I would say probably to like 5 to 10% of last clients that they
yeah,
go into that, and I'm like, buddy, I love you, but that was not the activity. That was
yeah,
not the assignment.
yeah. I'm
like,
sitting here over here like I'm doing it wrong. Why can't I do
right?
it? No,
Like like
you're just
like
taking it.
skipping envisioning your literal self. Like imagine your best day or your
Um,
happiest day and how you would be hypothetically like walking down a beach. Imagine the smells, the scents, all
yeah,
of the different sensations in that, etc.
yeah,
But no, I was a little too literal when my first counselor at 11 years old got
yeah.
me meditating. They're like, it's not you, literally. And like, I'm not even super autistic. I was just super traumatized at 5 years old forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when you're given instructions, take them super literally.
Exactly. Like, I was also the dork in class that finished the assignment in less than 10 minutes and then sat there writing.
Yeah. Like, what else do I do?
Well, what else do I do? I'm gonna start writing stories.
Yeah.
Fast forward 20 years, I've published 2 books and I'm working on my third and my fourth publications.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a sign.
Right? It's like, no, this one's gonna be an author, even though they're gonna be a professional as well. Like, sorry, folks. Well, then, from starting the work to now, like, how long have you been on your, like, true mental health journey?
Oh goodness. So probably about 4 years. So I started really heavy like 4 years ago. So I mid to early 20s. And then I got off track. I got derailed because of my ex, which was a very abusive domestic abuse situation. Um, and then after I left him, I was like, all right, we got off track, clearly, because we still had some cycles to break. So for now, like super seriously actually seeing benefits, about 2 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But also, it's good that you bring up the lack of linear progress
Yeah.
because that is another common misconception that, oh, every day you're just going to get a little bit better forever. No, there are ups, there are downs, there are periods of 1 step forward, 10 steps back,
Mm-hmm.
because the reprocessing, each level where you get deeper with it, can set you back to the entire
Yeah.
beginning while you're processing it, even
Mm-hmm.
though you already have like better tools each time. And
Yeah.
it's just like an onion. It's gonna sting your eyes a little bit more
Yeah.
closer to the center.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also shows that, like, especially people like me who have experienced different forms of trauma or from different sources, if you're really focusing on one thing, the other things could set you back, which is exactly what happened to me. Like, I was so focused on healing the abuse that I had suffered at the hands of my dad, I didn't realize that I was not addressing at all the abuse that I suffered at the hands of my mom and my sister. And that is what continued the cycle of domestic abuse. Because even though they were romantic partners, I literally took the dynamic of my mom and my sister and the way they treated me, and I put it into a polyamorous relationship.
Oh God.
Yeah. And that was my wake up call. When I left them, I looked at how they treated me and how it was like that duo, those two people against me, that I was like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing here, universe. Thank you for that.
Right. Well, then, and unfortunately, until you fully eradicated it from your own body and like subconscious habits,
Yeah.
we do. We just keep imprinting it on everyone else in our lives,
Yeah, we do.
which, which is another thing you don't realize till you're truly working on the healing. But it becomes almost impossible at times because it's almost too overwhelming through
Yeah.
various stages of it for a person to easily just dive into it. To your younger self, what advice would you give either your younger self or anyone that chooses to listen to this?
Oh goodness. There's so much advice to give. Um, you've made it through 100% of your worst days. Keep going. No matter how dark it might seem right now, you can make it through.
I love that because I say something very similar
Yeah.
because it's so true.
Yeah.
Like no matter how bad it was,
Mm-hmm.
you've always made it through.
Yeah.
Whether you cried yourself to sleep, whether you were so angry that you just went back to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Like,
mean, especially like younger me, I mean, I was suicidal as a child. I didn't think that there was a way out. And I'm almost 28 years old now. So it's like, no, you made it through your worst days. You can keep going. Life does get better. Yeah. Even the worst of the worst, you can make it through.
and that's the best part is that if you can get through the holding on period,
Mm-hmm.
you can live your wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Because the worst hellscape in life, it's not abuse, it's
No.
not assault or sexual assault. It's the prison of your own mind,
Mm, yeah. Amen.
which
That's
is
heavy.
and I know it too. I the first time I had planned to complete, I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
I was sitting in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's super messed up,
Yeah. It was six for me. I
right?
attempted it 6 and 8.
Right? I'm like we were literally babies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I mean I have tattoos on my body from when I wasn't even using hard substances, but my
Mm,
nervous system and body just gave out on regular prescriptions that I was supposed to take.
yeah.
Like that there were overdoses that never should have happened.
Yeah.
And I have visual reminders of them every day.
Yeah.
Stay on track, keep your nervous system in check,
Yeah.
don't do stupid shit.
No. Well, the nervous system is really important. I don't think people realize that like your mental and emotional states will literally shut your physical body down. You
Exactly.
are falling apart if you are not taking care of yourself and you just keep, like I say, keep pushing, but also take care of yourself. Don't just push yourself forward and not seek help because your body will shut down. I know mine has done it to me numerous times.
Right? Well, then, even people don't realize, even things such as fibromyalgia,
Hmm.
it is a direct result
Yeah.
of mental health issues and generally trauma
Yeah.
that has been left undealt with for so long
Yeah.
that your entire nervous system is just screaming. And
Freaking
that's
out.
why you have this air quote unexplainable pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I've experienced it. And even in the last like I really started getting back on track because my body was shutting down. Even conditions that I have were worsening, and I had all this inflammation, in my body, and it was because I was trapping all of that trauma and not processing it. So, yeah, my body was like, "Hey girl, you're either going to do something or we're just going to stop." Yeah.
Well, exactly. Like even me, I lived with chronic pain from as far back as I can remember
Yeah.
up until my late mid 20s.
Yeah.
It was over 2 decades before we began to get it managed. And now, as we sit here recording this, I've been in remission for 7 months outside of like the occasional migraine.
Right.
Like
That's awesome.
those are primarily weather related.
Yeah.
And a crappy
Oh,
day
yeah.
with too much pain to function, I'm like, oh, that's so terrible. I get to spend a
Yeah.
day in bed with no lights on.
Yeah. Because it's not a daily occurrence anymore.
Exactly. And it's not a prison that I'm actively trying to figure out how to escape.
Yeah,
It's just,
exactly.
oh, okay, I hurt
Yeah.
today.
I need a day off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
canceling the meetings,
Exactly.
rescheduling them.
That was my wake up was like being in so much unexplainable pain every day, going to doctors and them not being able to find out what the answers were. And I was just like, I think there's more to it than the physical. I don't know.
But you figured it out.
I
You're
Yeah.
well into your healing, and even looking at you, despite our listeners not being able to see,
Yeah.
that that twinkle in your eye has started to come back, which
Yeah.
is one of the big key indicators that you are not in like a constant suffrage.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I look back, thank God for social media. I look back to when I pretended to be my happiest and I had a huge smile on my face, but my eyes were dead.
Exactly. I even like from the first time I was famous as a teen.
Hmm.
You look at those photos and I looked great,
Yeah.
but my eyes dead,
The eyes
completely
don't
dead
lie.
inside. And that was at the beginning stage of addiction for me. And
Hmm.
although it was just alcohol,
Oof. Yeah.
like that was the darkest 3-4 years of my life.
Yeah.
Because the primary like brunt of
Hmm.
all of the cyclical trauma, like the worst of it happened in that period.
Yeah.
And 10 years later from the start of all that, and I sit here with, oh yeah, my life is great now. Holy crap, I got
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. You made
Like
it.
this is just the beginning of the dreams, and I'm not even quite finished what could be a third of my lifespan.
Yeah.
Like holy crap.
Yeah. I love that you bring up the addiction to alcohol because that's a part of my journey and my story that I've just finally started like really claiming accountability for and talking about. And that is part of that time frame of like posting on Facebook every day and going out and like posting when I'm out at the bar and I look so happy, but I'm not. Like you're literally trying to drown your sorrows and everybody could tell or they couldn't, and that's because they were oblivious.
Well,
Um,
and most people can't tell because they're in it too.
yeah. Yeah, that scene is like it's not something I ever want to return to. I see other people my age or older that are like, well, I this is just who I am. I love this scene. I'm like, that scene is so sad.
And
That is so sad.
and not to go into like low vibration or
Right.
claiming that, but it's a bunch of people that are just trying to drown their sorrows.
Yeah.
Because truly, and this is gonna sound biased, but you don't need to run away or numb yourself out when you are happy in your being.
Yeah.
But you are truly happy in your being, you're not even going to be celebrating with weed or alcohol. And
Yeah.
believe me, I'm not against cannabis. I
No.
use it to sleep sometimes.
Yeah.
But like you're not day in, day out. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
a beer after work every day. No, that is very bad for your body.
Yeah, very bad. Well, and that's what I mean by like, oh, it's a sad scene, is because there's a difference between going out to the bar to have a drink or two and the people that go every night and are getting wasted. If
Right?
you're just trying to obliterate your mind constantly, it's because you're trying to drown something. You don't just love to party. Like there's more to it than that. Because I told myself that lie for a long time too.
Exactly. And I'm really lucky that like the party ended. I wrote my first book. It was published. And then that summer I had the full awakening where, you know, I varied between fully sober and harm reduction for several
Yeah.
years, but this August is already 7 years in recovery. And now, like, my roommate has a ton of alcohol in a
Mhm.
box in this house.
Yeah.
I walk past it every day and I go, oh,
Yeah.
Smirnoff.
You're like, yeah.
Like it doesn't even faze me because I
Yeah.
don't ever want to drink. If
Yeah.
anything, because of the way my trauma looks like neurodiversity,
Hmm.
I will want an energy drink just so that my jaw relaxes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel that. I think it's funny that the two kind of relate, the alcoholism for me and the nervous system, because my body got to a point I was forced into being sober because my body one day just decided that if I had a drink or I smoked weed, I would have a panic attack. The minute my mind could feel the effect it had on my body, instead of being like, oh, I'm buzzed or I'm high, my brain would be like, no, you're dying. And I would have a panic attack. So I was forced into being sober because the minute I wasn't sober, I mean, even a little bit of a buzz, the minute you could like feel it in your feet where you're like, yep, I'm getting a little toasty, my body would be like, no, no, you're dying. Something's wrong. Panic now.
See, and for me, I started having these night terrors of my funeral.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, okay, my subconscious is
Yeah.
telling me
Mhm.
you're going down a very dangerous path.
Yeah.
And then I happened to read Bucked Off by Joyce Hellwig,
Mhm.
which recounts her and her husband's life in these beautiful stories and in like kind of like a self-written anthology in the way that she wrote it.
Mhm.
And I it I read the book and I
Mhm.
went, no, I don't need to drink anymore because it healed what I was dealing with that I was hiding from.
Yeah.
I read that book from front to back in 4 days twice.
Mhm. Wow.
I front to back. I didn't even pause. The
Yeah.
minute I finished the book, I started it again because I was like, oh my God, like this is the wake up moment,
Mhm.
and it just recounts her husband's life and their time together and her time after his passing from
Mhm.
a aortic aneurysm,
Yeah.
which is a widowmaker,
Yeah.
and it's actually cool because she herself is a local BC independent author.
Nice.
It's like, oh, cool. I'm glad that a respected elder in a writers group that I
Yeah.
was a part of at the time said, you need this.
Yeah. You're like, I did.
And I was, well, you're right, baby. I did need that.
Yeah.
And I wish it was a book that was easier to purchase
Hmm.
because I believe everyone deserves a copy, and I wish that she had done a better job publishing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Sorry,
way it was more
sorry, Joyce.
accessible. More accessible for everybody. Yeah, and I won't say I'm 100% sober. Now that I'm with my husband, I do have a drink every now and then, but I keep it to like a drink or two. I don't
But
really have a desire for anything
it,
beyond that.
and exactly when you're past the need to numb out, you can just have one or two, and you're not even buzzed.
Yeah.
And B, you have no desire to get to that drunk feeling.
Yeah. No. It- Before I got to the point where I was wanting to be drunk, I never liked the feeling of being drunk because I'm such a control freak. I didn't like not being in control of my body, but I didn't attempt after all that had happened. I never attempted to drink again or, smoke a blunt or whatever until I was with my husband because I never felt safe enough. Um, and he's enough for me in knowing how to regulate my system. Where I'm like, if something did happen, if I started to have a panic attack, I know he could handle it. So that's when I
Exactly.
finally was like, okay, let me have a drink and see how I reacted. And I didn't have a panic attack. So I'm like, okay, I'm safe here. It helps balance the nervous system again, but there's no desire to ever he doesn't either. It would take a lot. He has a high tolerance. It would take a lot for him to ever even get drunk. But we're just not it's like, every now and then have a drink to chill or celebrate something, but there's no abuse of it anymore, which is nice.
Exactly. And that's all that matters is because truly if you've dealt with the things that cause you to use, especially if it's alcohol or it was cannabis,
Yeah.
if you've dealt with it, you should be able to get to a point where socially you can have one.
Yeah.
If you were in a constant absence or abstinence state from
Yeah.
substance where you are counting down the days because you are so nervous about using, you
Mm-hmm.
haven't healed. You
No.
haven't healed at all.
No.
And I know that I will get kickback and backlash for saying this, but your 12-step program hasn't helped you. It's just told you to stay away from the substance. So maybe go get some proper counseling or therapy or
Yeah.
healing of whatever modality you choose.
Yeah, because it takes more than just abstaining from it. I can speak from a firsthand experience with that because I'd think about doing it and without even having it in my system, I would start to get super anxious. I'm like, nope, that means I'm not done healing whatever it was. Because my nervous system is still like, no. And just the thought of it. So definitely.
I'm so glad that we have had this conversation, Caitlin, and I'm definitely gonna have to have you back again to talk about more than just addiction.
Definitely. Definitely.
But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
You
having me.
can stalk Caitlin all over the internet
I'm
at
all of it.
Healing Echoes everywhere. I will also have her links or their links down below. Thank you for joining me. If you're ready to start this healing journey, you can find me everywhere at Trauma to Bliss. Or if you're ready to actually start working on this on a group level, go find my private group on Facebook called Bliss Says, and we can get you started today.